2025. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. We are under a hybrid meeting, as we have been for quite some time. This meeting is being recorded and is also on Marshfield TV. So in the event of a technical failure, we will continue live. Our first order of business is the minutes of April 16th. Did you receive any edits or?
I did not receive any edits.
Okay, anybody have anything to say right now? In that event, I recommend moving to accept the minutes of April 16th. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor? Aye. On to public hearings. Our first is 278 Ocean Street. This we opened at the last meeting, so it is a continuation. The hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, sorry, can you confirm that all administrative requirements have been met on
Yeah.
the jetty?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay, perfect.
All right, and is there anyone here to present for this project? Anyone here from the jetty? Anyone on Zoom?
Is this, I think this was
Is this,
continued.
it's on the continued list.
It is?
Did they agree to
They
continue?
never sent a formal continuance, but if there's no representative, then I think it would be best to continue.
I didn't realize that, okay. All right, I guess we will continue. What's the next,
June 4th.
June 4th, okay. All right, I move to continue the meeting, the hearing to the next meeting, which is June 4th. May I have a second, please?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye. Okay. Next is the Green Harbor Marina. This is a new hearing in compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection. A public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by the Brewer Green Harbor Marina, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Lake.
Okay. Okay. Do you want to state your name and present your project?
Sure. So I'm Joe Pellegri. I'm with the Rise Group. We are contracted to install solar at the Green Harbor Marina. And we are adding a disconnect on the warehouse building. And due to electrical code, to meet height requirement, we need to build a platform. And within that platform, we're going to dig 4 footings for the platform and the bottom of the steps. Pretty much, it's a 16 square foot, small, less than 2 foot, about 2 feet tall platform.
Okay. Hey, Mike, can you confirm that the administrative requirements for,
Yes,
This
all
part.
administrative requirements have been met.
okay. Did you have any comments on this project, Mike?
No, this project's very similar to the previous submittal from this property. That was for egress landing off of the boat repair type warehouse, for lack of a better term. This is off of the adjacent warehouse. It's a similar type structure and would not be blocking any flood vents.
Yeah, I'm just looking at the building commissioner's comments, and he kind of echoed that this project is similar to the other platform, and he had no issues with this project. Do any commissioners have any questions or comments? No. Any comments from the public? Okay. Mike, did you have any special conditions for this project?
Yes, I would suggest the following. Ensure best management practices are followed before commencing the work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator agent on guidance beyond the approved work activities. And I would suggest issuance of a determination of applicability with +5 and -3.
Okay. I'll make a motion to close the hearing and issue a determination of applicability with a +5 and a -2. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, all set. Thank you.
very much. Have a good evening.
Okay. Next up is 0 Grove Street. This is a new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, to consider the request for determination of applicability filed by Bridal Crossing LLC, and the hearing officer is Vice Chair O'Donnell.
Thank you. Mike, have administrative requirements been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Okay.
Good evening, how you doing?
Good. Which one of you is presenting? You gonna start?
So John Zimmer is with us. This is Kevin Seon, the applicant, and I'm Darren Grady from Grady Consulting. John, do you want to make a short presentation as far as the RDA?
Sure, absolutely. The RDA was filed for the subject property to basically confirm the absence of state and local jurisdictional wetland resource areas. The former site plan, back when Peter Armstrong had control of the property, depicted a small isolated wetland, basically along the northern property boundary, basically in the vicinity of where the first inflection point is, as you're going from west to east across the site. That was shown there from 10 or 15 plus years ago. So I went back out to confirm the location of it, because if it was a jurisdictional wetland, then some of the habitat improvements that we're proposing under the conservation and management plan would be required to go in front of the commission for review and approval. So I went out to the site and took a look at it. There's a small area of Phragmites, which I think is what was probably identified previously. But in looking at the rest of the vegetation within the area, the Phragmites was the only wetland indicator species that was present. There were other upland indicators like blackberry, multiflora rose, tansy, goldenrod, that were dominant in the area, so that there was not a predominance of hydrophytic vegetation in the area. We did a site walk earlier this week and went out and took a look at the area, and I think we came to a consensus that the area did not meet the requirements for classification as an isolated vegetated wetland. So that's basically what we're seeking to confirm this evening.
Okay, thanks, John.
Sure.
Mike, your comments?
Yes, as John had indicated, we performed a group site visit with the applicant and the representatives, as well as 3 commissioners. Took a look at the site and also determined that really the only wetland indicator species on site was Phragmites. They're pretty prevalent and invasive and grow in a large variety of habitats around Marshfield. That being the only wetland indicator, and also the absence of hydraulic soils in the area, there's no wetland to be concerned about within the area previously noted as a wetland on a site plan in 2008. Additionally, the commission could consider the 21E document, the environmental site assessment, that expired in 2024. The commission could consider asking for a updated copy of that.
Okay, so let's just stick with the wetland at this point.
Okay.
So Commissioners Hannafin and Platt and myself visited the site on Monday. Was there another visit on Tuesday, Mike?
There was another visit on Tuesday with 2 other commissioners.
Okay.
Yeah, Sam and I went on Tuesday.
Okay. So, I'd like to just poll the commissioners. Did anybody see any evidence of a wetland there?
I did not.
No.
Sam?
No.
Word? Okay, then I think we're pretty well in agreement. I'd also like to make the point that even if there was a wetland, the restoration work that would take place on that property would be in the buffer zone, and I don't believe it would be any way affected by a wetland. There's nothing that is proposed to be done that would be prohibited, so I'm pretty well satisfied we can vote on the RDA. I think we want to make a finding of a positive 2A and negative 4. Would I have a second for that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
So that covers the RDA portion. Do you want to go on with the rest of it?
Yes, please. Is this the portion where we're presenting?
Oh,
the-
you know,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, and I'm sorry we already took a vote. I should ask for public comments as far as that. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to comment on this? I see nothing, so we'll move on. Thank you.
Yes, on the other matter, as I mentioned at the last informal meeting when we came in to see the commission, we're interested in having you take the 9.19 acres that National Heritage is looking for so that we can comply with their requirements. It would be in the care or custody of your board, your commission. I just took a quick look. I mentioned at the sidewalk, there's quite a few other parcels. There's about 33 acres that will directly abut this property, that are contiguous. And then on the other side of Ferry Street, as you go toward the town wells, the town's got another 80 acres. So another 9 acres would make it 42 acres in between Grove and Ferry and Clay Pit. So it's a pretty sizable chunk of land all added up.
Does the commission understand where that 9 acres is? Do you want me to point it out on a map, or I have the A&R that was signed by the planning board that separated out that 9 acres in front of me that I can hand to you guys?
Yeah, we've seen that. I have a question about the 5-acre parcel. I made the point that we don't really have the deed for that. What you submitted to us said it was the deed for the 5-acre parcel, but it was actually just another copy of the 10.
I can get you that.
Yeah, I thought the deed was broken up into 2 sections. The first paragraph described the 10-acre piece, I think. Might have been vice versa. And then the second paragraph that extended onto page 2 described by meets and bounds the 5-acre piece. We can double check.
I could be wrong, but it seemed to me, what was listed as the deed for the 5-acre property was not it.
Yeah.
And I was curious because I thought there were some restrictions on that piece, which again, I don't think for what you want to do, I don't think it's a problem, but I just wanted to see what it said.
We'll of course work with town council to get the deed in order
Okay.
to his satisfaction and the board's. What we're looking for tonight is just an indication, a formal indication that we need for heritage. We've been telling him we're talking to you and you're interested in taking the property, but he has no way of really knowing until we get some indication, something on a letterhead or even an email.
Yeah.
John, do you want to add anything to that?
Sure, the Natural Heritage Program in order to be able to issue the conservation and management permit, they need to be satisfied that there is going to be a holder for the parcel, whether it's through a conveyance or through a conservation restriction. So they would require a formal vote of the commission, and then an email or, you know, a quick letter, you know, stating the results of the vote, you know, if you do happen to accept the parcel. And that would be sufficient to demonstrate that, you know, there is someone or an entity that will basically have care and custody of the parcel moving forward.
Okay, thanks, John. So in the past, the Conservation Commission has been somewhat reluctant to take on CRs because of the cost to administer them, and also that it's just not it's not a function of our commission. But in this case, I think the fact that you've given a funding means, and it is a pretty detailed plan as far as natural heritage, and it will be enforced by them that the plan is followed. I think in this case, it makes sense for the Conservation Commission to desire to accept the land and accept holding the CR on it.
I might add, and
I would clarify that it's not actually a conservation restriction. It's actually the commission and the town would own the parcel, so that we would still be responsible for conducting all of the habitat improvements and the monitoring, you know, at the cost of the applicant. But the commission and the town would actually own the parcel, so there would be no.
Okay, because we can't hold a CR on something that we own.
it's technically not a
Understood.
CR, it's a declaration of restriction on property that you would own.
Correct.
I don't know, I don't know how that, I know it sounds like a splitting hairs, but that's basically how the format is.
So we asked Attorney Galvin his opinion, and he had actually, do you have it in front of you, Craig? He had several things that need to be worked on. Number one, the narrative needs to be fixed because the wrong project is referenced and the wrong acreage is referenced. The CR is a general CR that needs details to be added and acceptance added to the proposed deed. We can give you a copy of this.
Yeah, right furiously here.
And I believe he spoke with Attorney Sullivan, so
Yeah.
they may already,
Okay.
but we can give you that.
He goes on to say, I have no knowledge if the mitigation work is acceptable or not, and it is up to the commission and NHESP. He spoke with Attorney Sullivan. There will need to be a collateral agreement agreeing to undertake all the work required to complete the mitigation plan, and surety for the work to be completed, as well as proof of insurance and indemnity language. This has to be binding on the assessors and assigns. I would think we would also want a timeline for the work to start, be completed, and the future maintenance plan. There also needs to be some notice given to a future owner of rental property of the continuing obligation. And the terms of the work, whether this can be done under an RDA or NOI, will be determined by the extent alteration in a resource area that is not exempted. So that's the one thing that we have taken some action on. As I said, we can get you a copy of this.
They can have that copy.
So,
Um,
that's a pretty good comment. I like the obligation thing because I agree. I mean, the homeowner association or whoever ends up taking over this thing, 20 years from now, it has to be clear language that they know that they're responsible for it and they have to keep this thing funded and running, So that's a good point that Attorney Galvin brings up.
At this point, I'd like to open up for discussion with the other commissioners.
I have a question, maybe John would be the person to answer this. Having someone monitor this, if a conservation restriction is held by a land trust, they have a monitoring program. In a case like this, where someone from outside has to be hired to do the monitoring, who does that? who would be able to
Right,
do
right
that?
now it would be on the homeowners association to hire the monitor to ensure that the habitat management responsibilities are taken care of in the conservation and management permit.
Would that be someone like you, or,
Yes.
okay.
Mike, did you have a further comments on this?
Yes, under proposed forest restoration, would that be proposed to just kind of let saplings and other trees that are on the property grow and thrive there? Or are you planning on planting different vegetation to restore the forest?
Yep, there's a specific planting plan that's included in the habitat management plan that I believe that you have a copy of. So there is going to be active replanting of trees out there in those areas to be reforested, to give them a jump start.
There was also some mention of managing the invasives.
Correct. Yep, there's an invasive species management plan, and that's going to be basically in concert with the monitoring that's done, you know, for the habitat restoration features. There'll be a pretty intensive management program at the beginning. I mean, as you saw when you were out there, that there are quite a few different invasive species out there that are gonna need to be removed. And then, you know, I would say probably the first 5 years until all the vegetation gets reestablished, it'll be an active management program to control knotweed and multi-core rose and some of the other species that are out there.
I don't think we have the management plan.
Yeah, I didn't get a copy.
Yeah, we don't have the management plan, John.
Oh, okay. I'll make sure I email a copy over.
Commissioner O'Donnell?
Yes.
The Form 21E, the environmental site assessment, expired in August 2024. The commission could consider requiring an updated one.
Yeah, in addition to that, that was for the 10-acre parcel. It seems like the 5-acre parcel, it would be very similar. You know, the work has mostly been done, it's all the same abutters, it's all the same history, but the fact that that's not included, I think when the town acquires property of this nature, you know, it was formerly used as gravel operation, usually they wanted to have a 21E.
We'll update that and make sure we include the whole 15 acres.
Very good.
Include the 9.
Would the commission consider issuing a letter of interest or to push us forward into the NHESP permitting? That's what we're hoping to get into.
Have the other commissioners got a feeling on that?
I mean, I'd like to see the management plan, but I don't know if that really would.
It could be
hold us up.
conditioned with the conditions we've discussed too.
You know, it would all have to be subject to town council approval.
I personally don't. I don't see an issue with providing that to them for this, unless I'm
Yeah, no, I
Letter.
think
interested.
we are prepared to go forward with this, but we still have a lot of i's to dot and t's to cross. And that is, a lot of it's contingent on Bob Galvin
And the heritage.
and
They
NHESP.
have to approve
Yes,
everything.
definitely, I'm just looking at it from our perspective, yeah. But, I think we could,
We can take a vote. that-
Take a vote.
that we support the acquisition of the property.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I would just say contingent on town council's approval and then the issuance of the conservation and management permit.
I think that would cover
I can
it.
also, Kayla Sepulveda, Sullivan and Comerford. I can also, as counsel for Brattle Crossing, assure that I'll speak with town council Bob Galvin and work out any details. I know that he's spoken with Walter at our office regarding things that he needs, which I believe the letter would be incredibly useful if you provided to Kevin or Darren. and we'll work to make sure that he's satisfied with everything, so that everyone, as you just said, all your i's are dotted and your t's are crossed.
Okay, thank you.
My pleasure.
At this point, I'd like to open it up to the public, if there's anybody that would like to make comments on this. I don't see or hear any comments. I would like to make a motion that the Conservation Commission would actively like to pursue the acquisition of this property pending town council approval and the approval of the NHESP plan. Have I got a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
All
Next
right.
steps.
Take your time.
So you need a letter from us affirming what we just voted on.
And that should get us further into NHESP.
Okay, yeah, and take Bob Galvin's
Oh, the comments.
review there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care.
Okay. Okay, next up, we have 1122 Ocean Street. This is a new hearing. In compliance with the regulations of the Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, a public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission on Wednesday, May 21st, to consider the after-the-fact request for determination of applicability filed by 1122 Ocean Street LLC, and the hearing officer is Commissioner Platt.
Thank you. Mike, can you confirm that all administrative requirements have been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been.
Okay, thank you. All right, so this work was performed within land subject to coastal storm flowage. It's in the zone AE9. Is there someone on Zoom or in the audience here that will be presenting for this? Okay, I don't hear anything. Mike, do you want to run through?
Yeah, I can run through this. I actually assisted the property owner in filling out this application, so I know it fairly well.
Okay.
I received a complaint from a resident at the property about trees being cut without any permits. Went over there to take a look, and there was a tree crew actively removing trees. They had removed a number of trees by the time I arrived there. Most of the trees were in poor health, as you can see here. One of the trees just off the corner of this home had several rotted limbs, and the property owner was afraid of limbs falling onto parked cars or residents using this egress out here. And then there's also this tree here. This was a maple, and it was clearly split and rotting down the middle, which was a hazard. The other trees on the property were Norway maple trees, which are very prevalent around town, but technically invasive. All cutting occurred within land subject to coastal storm flowage. And the homeowner seemed open to planting some native shrubs or plants in that area for mitigation.
Okay, great. Okay. Seems pretty straightforward. Did you guys talk about number of plantings, or would they maybe a...
We discussed that the commission could, in a situation like this, require a 2-to-1, 3-to-1 type ratio for planting, depending on the species. I mentioned a few species, one including high bush blueberry. He seemed interested in that. In addition to that, I suggested potentially American beach grass or something of the like in that area.
Okay, all right. Do any commissioners have any comments on this one? Seems pretty straightforward. Anyone in the public on Zoom have any comments? Okay. All right. Mike, do you want to list your additions or comments on this?
Yes. I would suggest the following. Ensure best management practices are followed. For any additional work, obtain all pertinent permits, and to see the conservation administrator or agent for guidance beyond the approved work activities, and then the option for a 2-to-1 or 3-to-1 planting ratio at the commission's discretion.
Okay, is that a 2-to-1?
I think 2-to-1 is,
Yeah. Okay, agreed, 2-to-1. All right, I move to close the hearing and issue the determination of applicability with a +5 and -2. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, 675 Ocean Street. In compliance with the regulations of Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Code of the Town of Marshfield, Chapter 294, Wetlands Protection, the public hearing will be held by the Marshfield Conservation Commission, excuse me, on Wednesday, May 21st, 2025, to consider the notice of intent filed for 675 Ocean Street. And the hearing officer is Commissioner Lake.
Mike, have all administrative requirements been met?
Yes, all administrative requirements have been met.
Is there a DEP number for this one? Yeah, what?
There is. It is SE 423142.
Okay. Do you want to go ahead and present the project?
Absolutely. Brian Taylor from Stenbeck and Taylor. And that DEP number was today.
Yeah, it just
Like every time we
came
get
through in the
same day.
afternoon. Yep.
Thank God we have a kid who lives in Marshfield who works at DEP. And also, Andrew, we had filed the floodplain permit. We just made a recent filing on that. So those are two check the box things. So this property is located on the southeast corner of Ocean Street and Second Road. And the commission might recall, over the past 5 or more years, the folks have been doing additions as they can afford to on the house. And the purpose of the meeting tonight is they have an existing porch on the northwest corner of their house. It's the main access to the house. It's like a 2-foot by 4-foot. It's a little dinky thing. This was originally just a little cottage. And the applicant's granddaughter has some mobility issues and needs an accessible entrance. So we're proposing to construct a 7-foot by 7-foot porch as detailed on the plans from Dick Rockwood. And these plans actually kind of include the history of all the other additions and stuff that were done previously with the commission. So the property is located at Barrier Beach. It's a AE9 flood zone. With the additional work that we're doing, the impervious coverage, there will be a slight increase of 47 square feet. That'll bring the impervious coverage to 33.9%. As the commission knows, the max is 70%, so we're miles away from that. And also the building coverage, it will increase to 27.3%, and the max is 40%. So the porch will be constructed on sonotubes as shown on the plans, and will be open below for storm flowage.
Did you have any comments, Mike?
Yes, this is a fairly straightforward project, just expanding the front landing there for accessibility needs, as stated by Mr. Taylor. Additionally, they had a previous project for an addition a few years ago, which received a certificate of compliance. And I would suggest the following special conditions. General conditions 1 through 18, which are standard special conditions. Prior to construction, condition 5 and 2, to have a pre-construction meeting and have the proposed porch staked out. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to have to file for a certificate of compliance within 30 days of completion. And erosion control, condition 1, that erosion control is in place throughout duration of work.
Any comments from the commissioners? Any comments from the public or anyone on Zoom? Hearing none, I'll make a motion to close the hearing and issue an order of conditions. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Go home, put away all the bad furniture. Doesn't end up in the marsh.
Okay, Town of Marshfield DPW, are we gonna do this tonight, Mike?
Yes, Matt Kinlan from the DPW's on.
Okay, so this is a continued, we continued this, correct? We opened this?
Yes,
and-
that was
yeah.
opened.
So, Sam Malafronte is the hearing officer.
Okay, Matt, I'll let you take it away here, and you can kind of discuss the revised design and the back and forth.
Yeah, so last meeting we left off with looking at redesigning and leaving an open bottom culvert versus the 24-inch pipe that we were originally proposing. So I looked, and we had some storm chambers over in the DPW yard that we wanted to repurpose. So I reached out to the manufacturer and got some information on using these as a stream crossing. So I updated my design, I ran it by the manufacturer, and he seemed to agree that this would be an adequate design for this situation, and I'm hoping would satisfy the commission's request. I also typed up a memo about the capacity of this and how much water is typically running through here. I ran it for a 10-year storm, and I believe I sent you all that info. The streams in a 10-year storm would have about 1.6 feet of water flowing through it, and this is about 4 feet high, this cross culvert, so this would have plenty of capacity to handle all the storm water going through there.
Yeah, and I submitted a few comments to Mike, which he forwarded them to Matt. This was back in April. The only other comment, Matt, that I didn't see kind of, I think that the proposed storm tech chamber, that's a unique design, and it also is a good repurposing of the stuff you guys have on site. The only other thing I did have a comment on was regarding the footings of the chamber, and I don't know if that has been addressed, but I'm certainly open to conditioning something on that. My comment was regarding scouring. In applications like this, I've seen that the footings for a chamber structure are sometimes either poured in place or some sort of concrete to prevent scouring. Because I don't think we're achieving the full width of the stream, but I could be mistaken there. That was my only comment, just because we don't want kind of undermining the culvert and then failure of the.
Yeah, so I spoke with the manufacturer. I worked with the manufacturer of these storm tech chambers closely on this, because I had never done a project with storm techs as a cross culvert. So I just wanted to make sure that the footings were accurate or adequate to handle any scouring. What we plan on doing is setting these in with rebar, and then we'll have crushed stone about, I would say, 3 inches around on each side, so that the bottoms of these chambers are buried a little bit, and then we're gonna do 6 to 8 inch riprap at the entrance to kind of slow down this water as much as possible before it gets in here.
Okay. Yeah, I think that.
And I ran that by the manufacturer, and he seemed to think that would be adequate. He said that if not, what another option would be concrete blocks to use those, but he didn't think that it was necessary in this application.
Okay. Yeah, I think the rebar with 8-inch riprap as kind of a dissipation before it enters is a good idea as well. I've also reviewed the memo. I think this is, moving forward also, we should probably have this for any stream crossings. I know the last one was a kind of an intermittent stream, but any perennial streams should have, be able to kind of free flow the 10-year storm. That's typical. So I don't have any further questions. I think it's in a place that we can basically approve and issue orders of conditions. Do any commissioners have any other comments or questions? The only other thing I had, Matt, is I forgot to mention it at the first meeting, but when I did go out there, the former culvert is kind of placed right against the river. If the DPW could remove that properly and get that out of the woods, that'd be great.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
We are in the middle of, we had a little delay in our asbestos work for the house at 80 Union, and that is in the works to be completed. And then once that is done, the crew's going to be out there to knock the building down, and then on the way out, they're going to clean all that stuff up, install this new cross culvert at the same time. So
Okay.
we will definitely be getting rid of all of that.
Okay. Does any commissioners have any other questions or comments?
No, that's good about the cleanup.
Yeah, I forgot
Yeah.
that the first time. I guess I'll open it up to the public if anyone from the public has any questions or comments. Hearing none. Mike, do you have anything further to add or any special conditions?
Yeah, I would suggest the following special conditions. General conditions 1 through 18, which are standard special conditions. Prior to construction, condition 5 and 2 to have a pre-construction meeting and have the area staked out. During construction, condition 11, to ensure best management practices are followed. After construction, condition 1, to file for a certificate of compliance. And the removal of the old culvert debris.
Okay. I'd like to make a motion to close the public hearing and issue an order of conditions inclusive of Mike's special conditions. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, now we have 0 Texas Street. Is Greg on here?
I do not see Greg here, nor a representative.
Did we have any communication with him?
I was in communication with them regarding the RFP information and the status of when it was sent out, but nothing additional since that time.
We can,
Did you actually open it?
yes, we opened it and we continued it to now. Pending, the RFP, which I guess you could explain where we are on that.
Yeah, Mike, so what did we get?
So we sent out the RFP to 5 different wetland delineators. We did not receive any proposals back. I sent them to a combination of local delineators as well as larger corporations who do delineation as well.
I find that kind of interesting. I mean, any of the applicants that come in are able to find wetland delineators?
Yeah, and it's sort of a small project, but so what? I mean, I don't,
How much time did we give them to respond?
We gave them about a week.
That could be a reason, maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I haven't been on that side of it. Any other commissioners familiar, when you when you hire a wetland scientist,
bit.
typically a waiting time?
A little bit longer than a week, maybe.
I could get you a couple of additional contacts. I'm not sure who you reached out to.
Yeah.
But I mean, typically it's quicker.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is relatively small. Someone will be able to do this in an hour.
Well, yeah, you know, we were thinking maybe it's small, so they just didn't really want to engage, but it's, as to your point, yeah, it's a quick one. So,
You know, one delineator responded, stating they didn't have a proper GPS equipment to mark where the flags are in comparison to the site plan. And then another wetland delineator had a conflict, and they had to work on a larger project on a different area of the state, so they were unable to give us a proposal, and I didn't hear back from the remaining three.
I suppose the question is, at what point, if we don't hear a response from companies, does it become, I mean, us being able to hire someone isn't really the burden of the applicant.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I have the same concern. The thing is, I think this project has some other things going on with it, not necessarily within COMCOM, but with the ZBA, planning board. So I don't feel we're holding them up at this point. Mr. Finn, would you have any ideas on this? Since
William Finn, Dog Lane. I felt that if you and the chair went out and looked at the site and you saw no evidence of any wetland, and the fact that it's been looked at by Brad Holmes as well, and he did determine that there were no wetland features. The current guidelines require both vegetation and soils to be examined, and you didn't see any vegetation that would indicate a wetland. If I'm not mistaken, that's the case. Then I would recommend, if I was on the board, which I am not, obviously, I would say pass on it. I don't think you need it. I would just pass on it.
I think in most cases, I would go along with that recommendation. The fact that this was an NOI that was denied, you know, in the not so, you know, about 10 years ago, as far as I know. The fact that Concom denied it at that time.
I understand what you're saying. I'm not sure what the reasons were that they denied it.
Well, I think we can continue anyway, and maybe we can look into that a little further.
There was on the original site plans, I believe it was from 2004, there's a small isolated vegetated wetland on the paper road of Texas Street. And it was ultimately, my understanding is it was ultimately denied because the isolated vegetated wetland was in the middle of that road to be developed. That was also through the access point of which you access the site. So if you were on the site or visited the site, you would have walked through or past that area previously noted as a vegetated wetland.
And you did not see any vegetation there?
I did not.
That indicated
No.
wetland?
I'm willing to assume that the applicant's representative, Mr. Morris, would be open to a site visit with their wetland scientist, Brad Holmes. I'm not sure if that's something we're interested in. We could advertise as a public meeting and have the entire commission go with the wetland scientist, or we could do chair, vice chair, and hearing officer, which actually would be the vice chair.
Yeah, I'm not sure which way to go with that, but I think that may be a way to resolve it. I just want to give this due diligence, the fact that a
Previous commission denied it, and we have concerns from abutters
Right.
We do.
about potential flood issues, and so,
Yes.
yeah, I agree. We want to be very clear on what these conditions are.
If we can't get a third party to review this area, I like the idea of having the whole commission with Mr. Zimmer, I think. Is that who, or Brad Holmes?
Brad Holmes, ECR Consulting
Uh,
from Plymouth.
With that group of people hosting it as a public meeting, or
Yeah,
that way-
that way the abutters,
if anyone
who could attend, or they would be free to see, all the minutes of what transpires.
And I think maybe having him walk through everything that he saw out there would be valuable.
Right.
I think is the original NOI from
It's
was
from,
it 2004?
I
or-
believe it was 2004.
Is that up on the Google Drive?
I believe so. I can try to pull that.
So we could review and see exactly what they determined?
Yes, it is on the Google Drive.
Okay, so we can take a look at that and
Yes.
So would the commission be in agreement with that, if Mike could contact the applicant, see if we could
have a
arrange a
public,
site visit with the wetland delineator?
yeah, a publicly posted
Yeah,
site visit.
second best thing to do, I guess.
Yeah.
So the 5/19 date that the proposals were supposed to be due, that's a cutoff, we're not accepting anymore, or can they still, the third party, can they still submit?
We asked them to have the
Yeah.
deadline of this past Monday
Right.
at 11 a.m. So that was
They
the
won't,
deadline.
yeah.
So I assumed that
Right.
we wouldn't receive any more after that.
So that area that is indicating the isolated vegetative wetland there
Yes, the
currently does not
yes.
present any,
Wetlands can shrink and grow
Yeah,
over
right.
time. I believe that this one has kind of dried out.
because that's where we were specifically looking,
Yeah.
yeah.
This was the hand
Nothing
markup
else is
site
dried
plan
out in
from a
there.
previous.
No, everything
conservation
else is
minister.
soggy as heck, but
Yeah, so I think I'd like to make a motion to continue. And this might be a lesson learned about when we try to do a peer review or a third party. Maybe we need to give a little more time.
Yes.
Not sure if that's our only problem, but. So I make a motion to continue to the June, what is it?
4th.
June 4th meeting? I get a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
aye. Okay, actually, we were already continued to the June 4th meeting, assuming we would have had a response to the RFP and,
Yeah.
yeah, so, okay. And contact Mr. Morris and
Yes.
tell him where we are.
I will definitely do that.
Okay, so we have some continuations. We've already voted on the jetty. SE 423125, 17 Oregon Road. Have requested a continuation until 6/4. I move that we permit that. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And SE 3131, 91 Old Colony Lane has requested continuation to July 23rd. I move to continue to July 23rd. A second, please.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We have one new business item, a hazard tree on Elm Street. Can you take us through that one, Mike?
Yes, so, this property is on, is 110 Elm Street. There's an isolated vegetated wetland on the property that's been staked out and conditioned through previous orders of condition. This tree is within the 50 to 75 foot setback of that IVW on the property. As you can see, it's there's many dead limbs on it, and it's covered with ivy. It's posing a hazard to this fence here, which has suffered one of the limbs falling on it, as well as posing a hazard to falling on the adjacent street itself. The homeowner wants to do some other tree work on the property, but the trees in which they desire to be cut are outside of the 100 foot. So this is the only tree within our jurisdiction.
Well, that looks like an unhealthy tree. I think we should allow that to be cut. I move to permit the cutting of the hazard tree at 110 Elm Street. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We can ask them maybe to leave a stump. They may or may not want to. It looks like
Yeah,
it's in a
it is
pretty
in their yard.
prominent
Yeah.
place, so I don't feel the need to insist on that.
Okay. Noted.
But if you might see if they would be willing. It's covered with ivy, so it wouldn't look that bad.
Yeah. That's very true.
Okay. We have two requests for a certificate of compliance. The first is SE 42-1488, 76 Constellation Road. All work has been completed according to plans. The applicant has asked that the as-built be waived as this order of conditions is over 20 years old and the home was built as proposed. The applicant is a law firm on behalf of the seller. So this was built 20 years ago and they just never,
They never followed up with the certificate of compliance.
is it in congruence with the
Yes,
plan?
it is. And
Okay.
actually, according to their site plan from the 2000s, it had a paved driveway and a garage noted. They have since been removed. So the impervious area has gone up since the proposed site plan.
Okay, so I think this is in order then. I move that we vote to issue the COC. May I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. And SE 42-2688, 254 Spring Street. All planting has been done in accordance with the plan from Riverhawk Environmental. So it is satisfactory? Mike?
Yes.
I move that we issue a COC for 254 Spring Street. May I have a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That concludes our business. I move to close the Town of Marshfield Conservation Commission hearing of May 1st, 2025. A second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.